God's story, the parable of the two builders. So part of God's story is about a wise builder and a foolish builder. And it goes like this. Jesus taught people that loving God and loving other people is the first and greatest commandment. He also said that following him meant more than just hearing his words, it also meant doing what he said to do. That's what it really means to be in God's kingdom, putting God's words into practice. To help people understand the difference between hearing and doing, Jesus used parables. A parable is a story that teaches a lesson about God. This is the parable of the two builders. Jesus said, "Everyone who hears my words and puts them into practice is like a wise man. He builds his house on the rock. The rain comes down, the water rises, the winds blow and beat against that house, but it does not fall. It is built on the rock." The people listening probably thought the story made sense. Some of them had probably built their own houses with their own hands and knew it was wise for a house to have a solid foundation under it, like rock. But then, Jesus told them about another builder. "But everyone who hears my words and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man. He builds his house on sand. The rain comes down, the water rises, the winds blow and beat against that house, and it falls with a loud crash." And that was it. That was the end of Jesus' parable of the two builders. The crowds listening were amazed at his teaching because Jesus sounded like someone who really knew what he was talking about. Some of them could probably think of houses built by foolish builders. The houses might have been really tall and looked really strong, but none of that mattered if the house was built on a poor foundation. The difference between the wise builder and the foolish builder wasn't how smart they were, or how much money they had, or even how cool their houses were. Remember, rain and wind came to both their houses. Instead, what made the wise builder different from the foolish builder were his actions. See, it was easy to build a house on a foundation of sand, because where Jesus lived, there was sand on top of the ground. But to build on a foundation of rock, the builder had to put in extra work. The builder had to dig and dig and dig until he reached bedrock. In the same way, it's easy for us to say we follow Jesus, especially if it's easy for us to go to church and hear about Jesus. And those are good things to do, but if that's all we do, that's like staying on the surface level, like building on sand. And God wants our faith to be deep. The way that happens is when we do what Jesus said to do. When we love God and love people. We can love God by praying, worshiping, and spending time with Him. And we can love people by serving them, being kind, and even sacrificing for them. Now, putting Jesus' words into practice takes, well, practice. And we don't always get it right the first time. Jesus said it could feel like squeezing through a narrow gate, while everyone else just walked through the wide gate. So the more we practice being like Jesus, the more we become like Him. But we have to start with a good foundation. And that's the story of the wise and foolish builder. So in case you missed it, here's the quick version. Jesus told stories called parables. One parable is about the wise builder and the foolish builder. The wise builder built a house on rock. The foolish builder built on sand. Rain and wind came. The wise builder's house stayed standing. Jesus wants us to do what He says to do. Over time, we become more like Him. And that's a part of God's story.